In China, there are mountains where danger has become part of their reputation. But what shocks the world is the way people choose to reach them. Stairways climbing straight up through vertical rock. Suspension bridges stretch between two mountain masses. Paths running along ridgelines only a few meters wide. In some places, thousands of stone pillars rise from the forest. In others, entire mountainsides are covered in snow and ice almost year-round. These mountains reveal a China shaped by courage. A place where human determination constantly faces brutal terrain and extreme weather. This is a journey through the most dangerous mountains in China. Places that continue to test the limits of human endurance to this day. From the foot of the mountain, you can already see a massive natural arch opening between towering cliffs. This is Tianmen Mountain. Its summit rises more than 1,500 meters above sea level. But the beauty here always comes with a sense of caution. To reach Heaven's Gate, you must climb 999 stone steps. The staircase leads directly to a natural cave entrance more than 130 meters high. The higher you climb, the steeper it becomes. The air grows thinner. Your breathing becomes heavier. Your legs begin to tire. And the challenge doesn't end there. Glass walkways cling to the mountainside. They are anchored directly into the cliff face. Look down and you'll see a drop of hundreds of meters below. Strong winds can arrive without warning. So can thick fog. Visibility shrinks. The sense of height becomes even more intense. For centuries, this place has been regarded as a gateway connecting people to the heavens. But before you reach that gateway, you must first overcome your own fear. A mountain range covered in snow and ice throughout the year. Its highest peak rises to 5,596 meters. For centuries, the Naxi people have regarded it as the sacred mountain of Yunnan. Jade Dragon Snow Mountain does not challenge you with sheer cliffs. The first thing it takes away is your ability to breathe normally. Most visitors do not start from the base. A cable car carries you to an elevation of more than 4,500 meters in less than 20 minutes. Your body has almost no time to adjust to such a sudden change in altitude. The moment the cabin door opens, the air feels completely different. You walk just a few dozen steps. Your breathing becomes heavier. Your heart beats faster. Even a short flight of stairs is enough to make many people stop and catch their breath. At this altitude, oxygen deficiency is no longer uncommon. That is why oxygen canisters have become almost essential for many visitors. The wooden stairway continues climbing even higher. With every step, each breath demands more effort than the last. And that is how Jade Dragon Snow Mountain truly tests everyone who comes here. Haba Snow Mountain rises above layers of thick clouds. Dark rocky slopes are broken by long patches of lingering snow. Its highest peak reaches 5,396 meters. It is one of the most iconic mountains in the Shangri-La region of Yunnan. It is also where many people attempt their first snow-covered summit, above 5,000 meters. Snow lies beneath your feet. A long slope stretches ahead. One climber follows another. Trekking poles are planted into the frozen ground with every step. On the steeper sections, crampons become almost essential to avoid slipping. The wind grows stronger. At times, it blasts across the mountainside, forcing climbers to lean forward just to stay on their feet. Temperatures fall below freezing. Stand still for too long, and the cold quickly works its way through every layer of clothing. The climb ahead is still a long one, and on Haba Snow Mountain, no one knows how the wind, snow, or terrain will change before reaching the summit. The path narrows to little more than a thin line carved into the cliff. Temple rooftops sit right at the edge of the abyss. Beyond them, there is almost nothing but rock and open sky. These are the images that have come to define Mount Hua, one of the most dangerous and famous mountains in China. Many visitors take the cable car to reach the upper slopes. From there, the journey continues along the mountain trails connecting Mount Hua's 5 main peaks. Thousands of stone steps continue across the mountainsides. Many sections are nearly vertical. Steel chains are anchored into the rock. Climbers almost always keep one hand on them as they ascend. Then comes the Changkong Plank Road, where the trail narrows to wooden planks bolted directly onto the cliff more than 2,000 meters above sea level. Everyone must wear a safety harness and clip into a steel cable before moving forward. When two people meet, one has to wait and let the other pass. Even today, Mount Hua remains a mountain that many dream of conquering at least once. It is also a place where many decide to turn back before reaching the end. Ancient forests cover almost all of Mount Fanjing. At the highest point of the Red Cloud's golden summit, a massive rock formation is split in two by a natural fissure. A small temple stands on each rocky peak. There is almost no flat ground left. Only sheer cliffs and a sea of clouds far below. When the clouds rise, the mountain slowly disappears. Only the two temples seem to float in the sky. To reach them, visitors must climb thousands of stone steps winding up the mountain side. Then another 500 steps are carved directly into the narrow gap between the rocks, leading to an elevation of about 2,300 meters. The rock walls close in from both sides. The staircase is narrow and almost vertical. Every step stays pressed against the cliff face. At the top, a short stone bridge connects the two peaks. It is the only path between the temples. The crossing is only a few meters long. On both sides are steep drops. Open space stretches directly beneath your feet. It is this extraordinary landscape that has made Mount Fanjing one of the most dramatic and distinctive mountain peaks in China. Throughout Langshan Scenic area, massive sandstone formations rise above the forest canopy. There is no single dominant peak. Instead, the entire mountain range is made up of towering cliffs, stone pillars, and narrow ridgelines standing side by side. Over tens of millions of years, erosion has carved the sandstone into countless different shapes. Some formations are broad and square like giant walls. Others are thin and slender, rising into the sky like stone spires. Between them lie deep ravines hidden beneath dense forests. The trails weave directly along these rocky ridges. The terrain changes with almost every step. In many places, only a short distance separates the trail from the edge of the cliff. Far below are valleys divided by deep gorges. What appear to be isolated rock formations are actually connected by extremely narrow ridgelines. That is why the feeling of standing above open space stays with you through much of the journey. Jianglang Mountain is easy to recognize from a great distance. 3 massive rock pillars stand apart from the surrounding mountains, forming a triangle from north to south. They have stood here for about 135 million years. Lang Peak is the largest, rising nearly 370 meters from its base. The other 2 pillars stand close beside it. Their rock faces are almost completely vertical. There are virtually no true slopes. As you get closer, the space between the 3 pillars becomes narrower. At its tightest point, the Yixiantian Gorge is only about 3.5 meters wide. The cliffs press in from both sides. Look up, and you can still see the sky, but sunlight reaches the ground through only a narrow opening. Stone stairways follow the cliff face. One side is covered with moss and vegetation, the other is lined with a wooden railing along the edge of the path. In some sections, cliffs hundreds of meters high rise directly beside you, while the drop is only a few steps away. Only after reaching the higher viewpoints do all 3 stone pillars come fully into view at once. Standing in this landscape, you truly begin to appreciate the immense scale of these rock formations that have stood here for hundreds of millions of years. Yandang Mountains cover more than 450 square kilometers in Zhejiang province. The entire mountain range was formed by volcanic activity more than 100 million years ago. Dozens of rocky peaks, gorges, and cliffs stretch across the landscape. Each section of the trail takes you through a different type of terrain. Some paths pass between narrow rock canyons. Others follow stone stairways carved into the mountainside. Part of the route consists of glass walkways. Through them, you can look straight down into deep ravines. Another section leads to Yuntian Bridge. The suspension bridge stretches for more than 100 meters and connects 2 cliffs at an elevation of about 200 meters. Elsewhere, the trail winds tightly around the base of towering rock formations. In the Lingyan Scenic area, the journey also includes a via ferrata route for those looking for an extra challenge. Participants must wear helmets, safety harnesses, and stay clipped to steel cables at all times. Some sections offer nothing but iron footholds attached to the cliff. Others require crossing steel cable bridges suspended between massive rock formations. Water flows down the cliffs throughout most of the year. After rain, the rock surfaces and stone steps become even more slippery. That is why even the less steep sections demand slow, careful footing with every step. Between emerald green lakes, long bands of rock wind across one hill after another. Some ridgelines stretch for hundreds of meters yet are only a few meters wide. On both sides, steep slopes descend toward valleys and lakes scattered below. The entire mountain range looks like narrow strips of land rising above the water. This is the signature landscape of Gao Yiling Danxia, shaped over millions of years as wind and water carved away layers of sandstone. The trail runs directly along these ridgelines. At first, the path is fairly wide. Walk a little farther and the open space on both sides quickly becomes much narrower. Cloud Ladder sits on one of the steepest sections. Hundreds of stone steps climb continuously from the base of the slope to the highest point. From the bottom, the staircase appears almost vertical. At the top, the trail continues along the ridge as the terrain twists and changes direction. Without reaching an extreme elevation, Gao Yiling still creates a constant sense of tension simply through the shape of these narrow rock ridges. More than 3,000 sandstone pillars rise from the subtropical forests of Zhangjiajie Wulingyuan. Some stand more than 200 meters tall. Others exceed 300 meters. They are scattered throughout the valleys. Today, they stand apart from one another. But few people realize this was once a single, continuous mountain. Rainwater slowly seeped into tiny cracks in the rock. Over millions of years, the weaker stone gradually eroded away. What remained were the tall, narrow, nearly vertical pillars seen today. Dense subtropical forests grow wherever the rock allows. Fog is also a frequent visitor. This landscape has changed the way people explore the mountains. Instead of winding trails through the mountains, engineers built routes that rise almost straight up the cliffs. The Bailong elevator climbs 326 meters along the cliff face. Cable car systems stretch across the valleys. Even today, many of the stone pillars can only be admired from a distance. Mount Gongga remains covered with snow and ice for most of the year. An immense mountain massif stretches across western Sichuan. Its highest peak rises to 7,556 metres. Dozens of snow-covered peaks surround it. A community with no solid ground to walk on, where everyday life takes place entirely on the water. They move slowly but continuously, reshaping the landscape over time. The rugged terrain makes Mount Gongga extremely difficult to reach. Rockfalls and avalanches occur on many of its slopes. The weather also changes very quickly. Clear skies can disappear behind thick clouds in a short time. Visibility drops sharply. Finding the right route becomes much more difficult. That is why Mount Gongga has long been considered one of the most difficult mountains to climb in China. Even highly experienced climbing teams spend many days acclimatizing to the altitude before venturing deeper into the mountain. Baima Snow Mountain is almost reduced to just two colours, black rock and white snow. Sharp peaks stand tightly packed together. The mountain gullies remain buried beneath snow. Thick clouds almost always cover the highest parts of the range. The mountain's shape alone is enough to show that this is not an easy place to reach. The road across Baima Pass climbs to an elevation of more than 4,200 metres. The air grows thinner with every kilometre. During winter, snow blankets the road. Ice forms on many sharp bends and shaded sections. Temperatures often fall below minus 10 degrees Celsius. Strong winds sweep across the exposed mountainsides. At times, clouds and fog descend to very low elevations. Not everyone who visits Baima Snow Mountain attempts to climb its peaks, but simply crossing this mountain pass is enough to experience the harshness of the entire range. At Dagu Glacier, the rock almost disappears beneath an unbroken blanket of white stretching across the mountainsides. Only sharp rocky peaks emerge through the snow and ice. Mountain ridges fade one after another into the clouds. Even in summer, the highest parts of the mountain remain covered in snow. A cable car carries visitors to a station at an elevation of about 4,860 meters in just over 10 minutes. The altitude increases extremely quickly. Every breath now delivers only about half the oxygen available at sea level. Even a short walk is enough to make your breathing and the heart rate increase noticeably. Cold winds sweep constantly across the ice. Temperatures can fall below 0 degrees Celsius even when it is still relatively warm at the base of the mountain. Old snow and solid ice cover many areas beyond the designated paths. High altitude, thin air, and freezing conditions always come together here. That is why even short walks at Dagu Glacier are far from easy. A chain of towering peaks stands side by side, forming the Siguniang Mountains. The highest summit rises to 6,250 meters. Between the peaks lie broad valleys stretching for many kilometers. Pine forests and alpine meadows cover the lower slopes of the range. Above them rise sheer granite cliffs, narrow ridgelines, and mountain gullies that remain covered with snow and ice throughout the year. At the base of the cliffs, long fields of loose rock have formed through centuries of weathering. Deep valleys divide the mountain range into separate massifs. The elevation difference between the valley floor and the summits reaches several thousand meters. To reach the highest peaks, climbers must cross loose scree, snow and ice. Steep rock faces and multiple sections of highly technical climbing. Muztagh Ata has a broader and more gently sloping summit than most of the high mountains in the region. Its highest point reaches 7,546 meters. It stands on the Pamir Plateau and is one of the tallest mountains in western China. From its snow-covered summit, massive glaciers flow down the mountainsides. In some places, the ice is fractured into thousands of sharp ice towers, packed closely together. The snowfields may appear smooth and level, but deep crevasses can lie hidden beneath them. Many are completely covered by snow, making them almost impossible to detect with the naked eye. Many sections of the route cross glaciers, that stretch for several kilometers. One misplaced step can cause the snow bridge beneath your feet to collapse. Climbing teams stay roped together at all times. They also maintain careful spacing while crossing the glaciers. The weather changes very quickly. Clear blue skies can turn into a snowstorm. Strong winds cover the route with fresh snow. Visibility can drop to just a few meters. Even the footprints left moments earlier quickly disappear. If you become separated from your group or lose the route, finding your way back becomes far more difficult. Across the Qinghai Plateau, Amne Machin stretches like a massive wall of snow. Its highest peak rises to more than 6,200 meters. Snow-covered ridges extend across a vast open landscape. Here, the mountain does not stand alone. It rises from alpine grasslands, icy rivers and broad valleys stretching in every direction. When clouds descend, the summit quickly disappears. Only faint snow-covered slopes remain visible through the mist. For Tibetan people, Amne Machin is a sacred mountain. Many do not come here to climb its summit. They come to walk around the mountain, pray, and endure days of high altitude, freezing winds, and unpredictable weather. The danger of Amne Machin is not a single cliff standing in front of you. It is the entire environment surrounding the mountain, a vast plateau. Few places to resupply, rapidly changing weather. A clear day can turn into snow within just a few hours. It steadily wears down the strength of everyone who enters this landscape. The ridges of Mount Taibai rise one behind another. Forests blanket the mountainsides. Bands of cloud drift across the peaks before quickly swallowing the forest below. The landscape keeps changing even when you have not travelled very far. A little farther along, the mist becomes much thicker. Stone steps and railings only come into view when you're almost beside them. At times, the trail ahead disappears completely into the clouds. Sunshine never lasts for long. Cold winds and rain can arrive soon afterward. The path quickly becomes more slippery. The stone steps hold moisture for a long time. At higher elevations, temperatures fall enough for thin layers of ice to form. There is no single fixed obstacle on Mount Taibai. Conditions on the mountain are always changing. The scenery changes, the weather changes, and the way you move has to change with every section of the trail. Clouds cover the peaks of Meili Snow Mountain for most of the year. Only when they begin to part do the immense walls of rock and ice emerge against the sky. More than a dozen snow-covered peaks stand side by side. One rises after another. Most are almost completely vertical. The mountainsides are cut by glaciers and massive rock faces. Snow continuously accumulates on the steep slopes. A single loss of balance can trigger an entire mass of snow or rock to fall below. This range is prone to avalanches whenever conditions become unstable. In 1991, an avalanche claimed the lives of 17 members of an international climbing expedition. After that tragedy, climbing Kawagebo, the highest peak of Meili Snow Mountain, was no longer permitted. To this day, no climber has ever stood on its summit. Today, most people admire this mountain range from a distance instead of trying to reach its highest peak. Massive granite boulders rise from the ancient forest. Some stand alone. Others are stacked on top of one another as if they could tumble into the valley below at any moment. This is the signature landscape of Tianzhu Mountain. Throughout the mountain are narrow gorges and one sheer cliff after another. Rocky ridges connect one summit to the next. Many trails are built directly onto the rock faces, step off the path, and a drop of hundreds of meters lies below. After rain or when the mountain is covered in mist, the granite becomes far more slippery. Some steep sections are only wide enough for a single line of people to pass. Climbers must keep hold of the railings or grip the steel chains fixed along the cliff to maintain their balance. At Tianzhu Mountain, the terrain itself is the greatest challenge. Every bend reveals another cliff. Every ridgeline leads to another narrow section of trail. Most of the journey takes place among gigantic rock formations that have stood here for millions of years. Below lies Namcha Lake. Ahead, the peaks of the Nyenchen Tanglha range merge into an endless band of white. Clouds drift across the ridgelines. One summit emerges as another disappears behind the mist. The landscape is vast and almost empty. It is difficult to find any sign of villages or roads. There is only rock, snow, and mountains stretching in every direction. Wind sweeps across the surface of the lake before racing up the mountainsides. The landscape is always in motion, even though everything ahead seems perfectly still. Low temperatures keep snow covering many of the peaks for most of the year. Stepping into this mountain range means leaving familiar conditions behind. Settlements are separated by great distances. Nature dominates almost completely, and it is that immense sense of isolation that makes the Nyenchen Tanglha range one of the harshest mountain regions in Tibet. Genyen Massif rises like a maze of stone. Sharp peaks stand one after another. Sheer cliffs surround the entire mountain massif. Many ridgelines are only wide enough for a single person to cross. The rock is uneven. The edges are sharp and steep. Truly level ground is rare. In some places, climbers cannot simply walk forward. They have to lower their bodies and use both their hands and feet to grip the rock. On either side, the mountainsides fall away into deep valleys. Losing your balance is simply not an option. The terrain constantly changes. Loose scree appears beneath your feet. Then come towering rock outcrops. Then another narrow ridgeline. The distance between stopping points is considerable. Communication signals are also unreliable. At Genyen Massif, most of the journey takes place on rocky terrain. Narrow trails, uneven rock surfaces, mountainsides divided by deep natural barriers. Crossing these sections alone is already a serious challenge. Baishishan Mountain is made up of hundreds of quartzite pillars. They stand close together, separated by deep gorges. Many of the cliffs are almost completely vertical, creating a landscape unlike most mountain ranges in China. A cable car carries visitors close to the summit area. From there, the journey continues along a trail system stretching for more than 7 kilometers across the mountainside. Some sections cling to the cliffs, others cross the open space between rock formations. In several places, glass bridges span the deep gorges below. The scenery changes with every turn. On one side stand towering stone pillars. On the other are broad valleys. The empty space beneath your feet remains a constant part of the journey. Look over the railing and sheer cliffs plunge almost straight down below. Baishishan does not require technical climbing skills, but the long trails built along the cliff faces, combined with the constant awareness of height, are enough to make many visitors slow down and watch every step carefully. Bogda Peak is defined by 3 towering summits standing side by side. The rock faces are almost completely vertical. Snow and ice blanket the mountain from the highest peaks down into the valleys below. The entire massif resembles a gigantic wall rising into the sky. Several large glaciers surround Bogda Peak. Ice accumulates throughout the year. Deep crevasses cut into the mountainsides. Many rock faces offer almost no natural handholds. As a result, the terrain is considered one of the most challenging in the Tianzhu Mountains. Temperatures on the mountain remain extremely low. Cold winds frequently sweep across the upper slopes. Clouds can engulf the summits within a short time, making the terrain much harder to read. The easily accessible areas make up only a small part of the mountain. Beyond them lies a vast and rugged massif, where signs of human presence are few and far between. A single river has created an elevation difference of nearly 7,000 meters between the valley floor and the mountain summit. At the end of the Yarlung Changpo Grand Canyon stands Namcha Barwa, rising to 7,782 meters. Few places on Earth have such an extreme change in elevation within the same landscape. At the bottom of the canyon lie dense forests and fast-flowing rivers. Above them rise sheer cliffs, icy slopes and snowfields reaching all the way to the summit. Moisture constantly rises from the canyon below. As a result, thick clouds frequently shroud the upper mountain. On some days, the entire summit disappears from view. There is no easy route to reach Namcha Barwa. Even before the climb begins, expeditions spend many days just getting to the base of the mountain. Most of the approach passes through dense forests, deep gorges, and powerful streams with little or no defined trail. Its isolation and rugged terrain are among the main reasons why Namcha Barwa was not successfully climbed until 1992. Much later than many mountains of similar height around the world. The mountains of Dehang Grand Canyon do not form a single continuous range. Deep gorges and valleys cut between them. Many cliffs rise almost vertically from the canyon floor to the summit. In some places, the elevation difference reaches several hundred meters. Forests blanket most of the mountainsides. Only the pale rock faces stand out against the green landscape of the canyon. Many viewing platforms are built on rocky outcrops, extending over the canyon. To reach them, you must follow narrow stone steps running along the ridge lines. There is almost no flat ground on either side. Step just a few paces off the trail and the terrain drops steeply into the canyon below. Liusha Waterfall plunges about 216 meters from the edge of the mountain to the canyon floor. After heavy rain, water from dozens of mountain gullies rushes into the canyon at once. The flow becomes far more powerful in a very short time, making travel through this area significantly more difficult and dangerous. In the middle of the Tibetan plateau, Mount Kailash stands apart from the surrounding mountain ranges. Its four faces are aligned almost perfectly with the four cardinal directions. Massive rock walls rise directly from the base toward the summit, giving the entire mountain an almost symmetrical shape. Bands of snow cling to the rock gullies, carving long white lines down its slopes. There is no route to the summit of Mount Kailash. Every trail ends at the foot of the mountain. Instead, people travel around it on the Kora pilgrimage route, which stretches for about 52 kilometers. Most of the journey takes place at elevations above 4,600 meters. The air is thin. The trails are covered with loose rocks. Cold weather persists throughout the route. Completing a single circuit takes several days and is a major challenge for many people. Every year, thousands of pilgrims come here. Yet for decades, no climbing expeditions have attempted the summit. Climbing Mount Kailash is not permitted because the mountain is considered sacred by several religions. As a result, its summit has remained almost completely untouched to this day. Dozens of temples are scattered from the base of Mount Emei all the way to the Golden Summit. Stone paths and stairways connect them together. The trail passes through ancient forests before continuing up the mountainside. The Golden Summit rises to more than 3,000 meters. From the foot of the mountain to the summit, the elevation increases by more than 2,500 meters. Clouds and mist are present for most of the year. On some days, the summit disappears completely into the clouds, while the lower slopes remain under clear skies. Hiking from the base to the summit covers nearly 50 to 60 kilometers and includes about 60,000 stone steps. Most visitors need 2 to 3 days to complete the journey. A cable car can take you close to the Golden Summit. Even then, the final section must still be completed on foot. During winter, many of the stone steps are covered with ice. Thick fog often settles near the summit. The trail becomes much more slippery. Visibility also drops significantly. That is why the final stretch of the climb is usually the most difficult part of the entire route. The ridgelines grow narrower before meeting at a sharp summit, forming Mount Hua and Tianmen. Pale rock walls rise above the mountainsides. Snow and ice fill the rocky gullies, extending downward in long white ribbons. From many angles, the mountain is reduced to little more than rock, ice, and extremely narrow ridgelines. The route does not lead directly to the summit. Climbers must cross loose scree slopes, snow-filled gullies, and multiple narrow ridgelines. In some places, there is only enough room for a single footstep. One side drops across an icy slope, the other falls away into sheer cliffs far below. The weather on Mount Hua and Tianmen also changes very quickly. Strong winds frequently sweep across the exposed ridgelines. Fresh snow can hide the hard ice underneath. A single slip is extremely difficult to stop on the long, steep slopes. That is why Mount Hua and Tianmen remains one of the most demanding peaks for ice and mixed climbing in Western China. Not every mountain is easy to reach, and not every journey comes with an easy path. These mountains reveal a very different side of China, wild, rugged, and still shaped much as nature formed them over millions of years. It is a side of China that very few people ever have the chance to experience. If you could choose one mountain to explore, which one would it be? And which mountain impressed you the most? let us know in the comments below. If you enjoy journeys like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next adventure.